Okay, we are rolling. Champions of Champions boxing talk. Well, that was absolutely pulsating, wasn't it? But feeling down, obviously, because Kell Brook is the British guy, and I wanted him to win this fight. But I predicted Errol Spence would win this fight. Now, let's get one thing clear about social media. When somebody makes a prediction at the highest level in sports, it does not mean they hate the other guy. I wanted Kell Brook to win this fight, but I thought, putting the pros and cons together, Errol Spence would produce the goods. And unfortunately for you, and for me, yes, unfortunately for me as well, I was right. I hate being right sometimes. Sometimes being right, is not good. Let's go to another sport, the Premier League. I love Manchester United. They are my team. But halfway through the season, if you'd have asked me, are Manchester United going to win the Premier League? I would say, are you kidding me? No. Does that mean then suddenly I hate Manchester United? No, it's called telling the truth at the highest level of sports. Because what most people are doing is they fall in love with a team, they fall in love with a fighter, so they have hope. But at the highest level, you need more than hope. You need to have, because let's face it, fighters are determined anyway. Football teams are determined anyway. They're all in shape. And they all believe. But you need that little 5% more. You need more than a hometown crowd sometimes. You need more than the judges on your side sometimes, because the other guy can knock you out. Right? I wanted Kell Brook to beat Triple G, but I knew he wouldn't. Does that mean I hate Kell Brook? No. Now, I didn't know 100% that Errol Spence would win. And actually, I think early on in the first 6 rounds, Kell Brook was doing better than I thought. But the pattern emerged the way I unfortunately thought it would. Kell Brook's body shots would pay dividends, because he did throw some good body shots on Errol Spence, actually thought. And that made Spence think. But I said that Kell Brook had to lay that lever on Errol Spence early and hope that that right hand would hurt him. And you know something? Errol Spence come through it. And then Errol Spence landed his withering shots as the fight wore on. And Kell Brook, again, a little bit like where he did in the Golovkin fight, and I said in my prediction video, was ending up against the ropes. And Errol Spence then was teeing up on him. The worst place you can be against a Triple G or a Errol Spence who's a prolific body puncher is be on them ropes, but fatigue was kicking in. The punishment on Kell Brook, he wasn't quitting, he was hurt. Right? I'm hearing people now call Kell Brook a quitter. Let's not say that. And I did say that when Spence had significant success with shots that were powerful and had effect on Kell Brook, that the memories of Golovkin would come back. And lo and behold, they did. The eye started showing signs of damage again, and was really damaged by the time Spence ended the deal in the 11th round. But the halfway stage, I had Brook 6 rounds to 2 up. But Errol broke him down. It was a very risky tactic for Errol to kind of... He passed the chin test tonight, let's just put it that way. Every young fighter that we rate, we can't really talk about until they face a guy who's one of the best and take a punch from one of the best. Errol Spence was hit and was still there. Kell Brook couldn't even drop him. Errol Spence officially put down Kell Brook twice. Not even Golovkin dropped Kell Brook. I know the fight only lasted 5 rounds, but as Kell Brook, who had a good front foot game early in my opinion and was throwing great jabs and his timing was there and he looked strong. But as Kell Brook began to fatigue because those little body shots that didn't look like huge Errol Spence body shots early were mounting up. He was putting money in the bag. And when Kell Brook was not... When he was giving Errol Spence time, all great fighters, when you give them time, expose you. They either outbox you or destroy you. That's the sign. When a fighter's got a little bit of time to take the air in and breathe, can he in front of a big crowd away from home produce the goods? And Errol Spence did just that. Because don't forget, Errol was away from home. When Kell Brook was having success early, that young man could have crumbled. But he just looked so confident to me all the way through this, Errol Spence. My hope was only a hope. Your hope, some of you did think Kell Brook would genuinely win because you're thinking about boxing, as I'm thinking about boxing. But, I mean, the breakdown video I gave about Kell Brook v Errol Spence was quite interesting because I was telling the truth from my angle and was being attacked by keyboard warriors. Now, if I sound like a moron and say that Mike Tyson in his prime would get knocked out by Prince Naseem Hamed with one jab, yes, dislike the video. But when people are making concise breakdowns, take your emotion out of it. See the sport for what it is at the highest level, a sport. And you need to be more than just a fanboy and have hope and be at home. Listen, Lennox Lewis is my favourite heavyweight of all time. But you know, if you matched him against Muhammad Ali, both in their prime, I'd have to pick Muhammad Ali. Because he has the style over Lennox. That's my belief. And yet I prefer Lennox Lewis as a heavyweight. I prefer Muhammad Ali as a man. And as a legend. I know what Muhammad Ali is. But everybody has their favourites, but their favourites don't guarantee that you will win. It comes down to the guys in the ring and the skills they can produce. And Errol Spence had everything that is toxic for Kell Brook. Pure and simple. One thing that's unfortunate, when the fight was stopped, they went over to Amir Khan. And Kell Brook with a win tonight, I think his popularity would have succeeded Amir Khan's. But because, again, people don't know much about Errol Spence, they'll think that Kell Brook was defeated by some ordinary welterweight tonight. And he wasn't beaten by some ordinary welterweight. This is the best welterweight currently, in my opinion. The only guy that has a chance for Errol Spence is Mr. Pacquiao, because he can keep moving them feet and he won't lie on the ropes like Kell Brook did and let Spence tee off. And Manny is a 12-round fighter when all's said and done. A real 12-round fighter. And he doesn't get hit. And he's not as stagnant as Kell Brook. But even then at 39, you know, Manny's only human. He's an all-time great. But we're not talking about Manny in 2010. We're talking about it now. Now it's a tough fight. Can Manny pull it off? Yes, I think he has a better chance than Kell Brook. Of course, because he's more skilled than Kell Brook. Manny Pacquiao is a different level. His footwork is better than Kell Brook. He's quicker. You know, he puts combinations better. He's a better defensive fighter than Kell Brook. But if Manny's legs slow, who knows? Errol may have the edge. But Sky Sports were talking to Amir Khan after the fight. Now Amir Khan doesn't have to fight Kell Brook. Kell Brook has no hold over Amir Khan now, unfortunately. Because when all's said and done, Amir Khan has beaten Madonna, Kotelnik. He finished a legend in the ring against Marco Antonio Barrera. Right? His resume is still stronger than Kell Brook's. I think at this point, Kell Brook still wins. Errol Spence, who took them right hands, if they land on Amir Khan, it's game over. Kell Brook will beat Amir Khan if he lands them shots. And he will. No question. Because I don't think Kell Brook has the energy to really fight it out at 12 rounds at welterweight anymore. But neither does Amir Khan. He's a front runner, as Roy Jones Jr. would say. You'd be talking about two guys that after 6 rounds sort of lose their energy. But Kell Brook, I think, stops him within 8 rounds. But Kell Brook's standing would have took a little bit of a hit tonight, because if Errol Spence was as famous as Manny Pacquiao or Gennady Golovkin, Kell Brook's standing would shoot up, because he did do a good 11 rounds there. But because Errol Spence is underrated, right? Unfortunately, the public will take it out on Kell Brook. But as I say, the fight kind of went exactly as I thought it would. I thought that Kell Brook would hold his own. He did. The only difference was I didn't think he'd be that high up after 6 rounds. Didn't think he'd land as clean as he did. But that's only another string to Errol Spence's already, strong, promising bow, that he could take shots. Here's the problem: when Manny Pacquiao lands that left hand on opponents, they sort of think, I've had enough of this. But they do with Kell Brook. But he took them shots from Brook, so he could take shots from Keith Thurman. He can. Keith Thurman will have to outbox Errol Spence. Anything's possible in boxing, but he will have to outbox him. I don't think he stops Errol Spence. The other top welterweights are going to have to come up with a plan. And again, Manny with the footwork is the one to do it, to outbox this guy. Because as soon as you get into shooting contests with him and you're there to be hit, he'll break your body down, he'll break your head down, and eventually you will break down. That's just how it is. Who is my favourite fighter between Manny Pacquiao and Errol Spence? That's a stupid question. Of course it's Manny Pacquiao. But right now, if you ask me, is Manny Pacquiao a 90-10 favourite against Errol Spence? I'll say no. He isn't. Because Father Time is upon us. Right? The Manny Pacquiao who beat Margarito and Cotto, I believe, would beat Errol Spence and Kell Brook in the same night. But he isn't that one anymore. That ship has passed. This version of Manny Pacquiao may be still pound for pound greater than Errol Spence, but he's not fighting at his natural weight. And as you get older, and you're still fighting the bigger men, if your legs slow down, they can start to land more shots. Maybe. And I know Manny parries shots better with his gloves and things like that than he ever has done before. But accumulation on the body counts. Errol Spence may end up looking stupid and be clinically outboxed. I don't know. But anybody that says to me that Errol Spence v. this Manny and Manny of 2009 has less of a chance against today's Manny than the past Manny, I think he's talking absolute nonsense. The sport is what it is, and you have to tell the truth. And Errol Spence tonight passed that truth test, didn't he? Body shots, head shots, the variety. When he had Kell Brook hurt, he was on it to try and finish his man. I thought at one point that he may actually punch himself out. But the rest only did Errol Spence favours when between rounds when they were trying to rewrap, I think, a problem with Kell Brook's glove. That was only letting Errol Spence's energy rev up even more. And the end result was devastating. I don't think Kell Brook quit. I just think that he's taken punches from two fighters who are unique in this era, Gennady Golovkin and Errol Spence. I'd like to see Golovkin v Errol Spence. I think Golovkin crushes him like a grape, because Golovkin is just Golovkin. Watch out, Canelo, because I think you're next. Anything can happen, but I just think that guy is... Only Danny Jacobs around his weight can compete with him. I'm happy for Gorge Groves. Finally a world champion. That could be one of the fights of the year. A great stoppage there. They were doubting Gorge Groves, but you know something? I actually could see how he was going to win. That guy kept coming forward, Marcus Madana style, right? Gorge Groves is a very clean, accurate, crisp puncher. Great jab. And massive over-the-top power punches. Used the uppercut, I think, well tonight. And body shots. Right, when he had his guy in trouble, he put his guard up the other guy, and Gorge Groves went to the body to bring the guard back down. I thought that was very intelligent. What people don't realise when a guy is attacking you, coming forward, if you're a good puncher, as Gorge Groves is, when they walk onto punches, it's double jeopardy. And I think that's what George's plan was. At ringside, they were saying, oh, I feel Gorge is going to lose this. I never quite got that feeling. I think Gorge thought, right, he comes forward like a bulldozer. Let's give some rockets for that bulldozer to run onto. And he did. So congratulations on the new champion, Gorge Groves. At the 4th time of asking, that shows real determinism. That shows real grit. Kell Brook now will have to follow Gorge Groves in that sense. Gorge Groves lost twice to Carl Froch. And then a disappointing loss to Bundu Jack in a close battle. Kell Brook now will dust himself down. He's good enough to beat still a lot of welterweights out there. If he believes in himself, he could still give Keith Thurman a tough night. He could still beat Amir Khan. I think I'd edge him over Jesse Vargas. That'd be a good matchup. Manny Pacquiao, I think, would beat Kell Brook still. A rematch with Errol Spence, I'd go with Spence again. Spence is going to be better now, just like Anthony Joshua is going to be better now. Every young fighter needs that acid test, and when they come through it, like Ricky Hatton v Costa Tszyu, Ricky Hatton become a better 10-stone fighter after that because he was confident that he was the business. Errol Spence will feel like Hatton did then now. Because like Hatton, he's a withering body puncher. Nobody on this world, the toughest of us, struggle with body shots. No one takes them. If you're a good enough body puncher and you can land them accurately. Let's put it this way. Floyd Mayweather defended well. Tucked elbows against Ricky Hatton. If Ricky Hatton could have got through with similar shots as he landed on Louis Collazo and Castillo, no, it was more Castillo, wasn't it? He'd have hurt Floyd Mayweather, no question about it. So Errol Spence, he's a throwback to that time in 2005 when Ricky Hatton was just rip-roaring. Him and Golovkin are devastating body punchers. Canelo Alvarez as well. Sometimes it's a lost art, but it's a good art to have in the sport, especially when you're a good puncher up top as well. But commiserations to Kell Brook. I think he's a class fighter. If he's got the grit to come back, he can take heart from Gorge Groves, who has managed to do that. Kell Brook has already been a world champion. I'm hearing a lot of people saying that wasn't the real Kell Brook that turned up tonight. I heard that when Manny Pacquiao beat Ricky Hatton. They all said, oh, the real Ricky Hatton didn't turn up. You know why the real Ricky Hatton didn't turn up? Because Manny Pacquiao was in the ring with him. Right? Do you know why Kell Brook didn't turn up? Because Errol Spence was in the ring with him. You can do whatever you want when you're an elite fighter against Jojo Dan and people like that. But Jojo Dan is not Errol Spence. Kell Brook did not look like himself because Errol Spence took him out of his usual comfort zones. That's what elite fighters do. It's what Manny Pacquiao's been doing for God knows how long. That's what Juan Manuel Marquez has been doing for God knows how long. Triple G does it. Floyd Mayweather's done it. Errol Spence will do it. Chris Algieri, I told everybody, Chris Algieri is a better fighter than you. You guys are calling him a bum. He's no bum. Anybody that gets up after hitting the canvas 8 times between Provodnikov and Manny Pacquiao is a determined guy, let me tell you that. And Errol Spence blew him out the water. But people weren't convinced. Are you convinced now? I always thought Errol had the tools. And Errol seems a decent guy. He doesn't deserve this hate that you seem to throw on him. He represents the sport of boxing well. Good family man, like Terence Crawford. So, and he's entertaining. He throws leather. He knocks people out. Good fighters out. Leonard Bundu went 12 with Keith Thurman. He didn't go 6 with Errol. Chris Algieri went 36 rounds with Amir Khan, Manny Pacquiao and Ruslan Provodnikov. He didn't go 5 with Errol Spence. Kell Brook beat Sean Porter. Tough, rugged guy. He gave Golovkin a few problems. He gave Spence his fair share of problems. But Spence prevailed against an A top-class welterweight. Exactly what we've all asked him to do. And he's done it. Kell Brook, you will come again. As Gorge Groves has. Errol Spence is on the rise. Champions of Champions Boxing Talk. I'm out.